Hello ladies and gentlemen, what's up? Force here, and today I will be complaining about Hearthstone. So if you're not interested in watching a grown man cry about video games, you should probably leave, because that's exactly what's about to happen. Now, before we go into Hearthstone Balance, which is going to be the primary part of this discussion, I want to briefly take a trip back in time, back to when I used to play physical Magic. So just bear with me for a moment, because it sort of sets the stage for what we're going to be talking about, which is the metagame of Hearthstone and the way Blizzard approaches balance. And I'm not here to say Blizzard doesn't know what they're doing, but I am here to say, Blizzard, are you sure? Are you sure you know what you're doing? I don't know. Anyways, let's talk about paper Magic. So, when I was a kid back in high school, I was so into the game. I was buying 1 to 2 boxes of packs every new set, and that'd be coming out every 3 months. Now, when you're a kid, you don't have bills really, so you can spend all of the extra money that you earn on garbage, and that's basically what I did. I spent all of my money on Magic cards when I was a child, and it was great. It was a fantastic time. Me and my friends just loved the game. We were constantly building decks, looking at some of the top decks, adjusting to counter those decks. I loved land destruction. I was just always, every set that came out, I was like, I gotta build an LD deck because it's so awesome to control someone's land. It's like, if you think of it, Hearthstone equivalent, if you could destroy mana crystals on a consistent basis of your opponents, it'd be so awesome. And anyways, that stuff aside, so tournaments. I was playing primarily during the Tempest Saga block, and then I played into like Mercadian Mask, Counter Rebel, Affinity, all that stuff. So I've played through a portion of the tournament scene of Magic the Gathering. Every Saturday we'd go down to a local card shop, and there'd usually be about 20 people there. It's a small segment, but it was a good representation of the scene because I'd be looking online at places like Star City Games, and you could see what the top tier decks were at pro tournaments and stuff like that. And you know, there was a time specifically I remember where, in fact, pretty much every time, every block that came out, every new set of cards that came out, there was always 2 to 3 decks that were primarily at the top. So at a time, you know, some of the things that come to mind are, there were Fires of Yavimaya decks, there were Ravager Affinity decks, there were Counter Rebel decks, and in every block there'd be about 2 or 3 of them. Back in Saga, just crazy stuff like the Stroke of Genius decks and Gaia's Cradle and just ridiculous combos. But there'd always be a few decks that were inevitably at the top, because no matter what you do with a card game, there's always going to be a strongest. And we've seen that fluctuate with Hearthstone, and we've seen Blizzard sort of force plays and force changes to the metagame. And that's what I really want to talk with you guys. So in Magic, when a current metagame was set, a new set of cards come out, the metagame is set, you've got 2 to 3 decks at the top. Everyone is either building those 2 to 3 decks in some variation, tweaks to their personal liking, or they're building counters to those decks. For example, when Affinity was huge, that was an artifact-heavy deck. Every green deck that I ran Oxidizes, which was just a really hilariously easy way to blow up artifacts. And that's just how you played. That's how Magic was played. Now, the advantage to a card game online, a digital card game like Hearthstone, is that you can make adjustments to the strength in the metagame. But I guess the question is, should you? Is that in the spirit of card games, or are we forming a new spirit of card games because this is online and digital and this stuff can be done? All right, so now back to Hearthstone. We've talked about how it's worked in my recollection in Magic in the past. We've got those top decks, we've got those decks playing, counters to those decks, and then the whole metagame changes once a new set of cards come out. Now with Hearthstone, we've been going for the beta for, I guess it's been a few months now, and we've been seeing a cycle of top decks. So I'm just going to briefly run through some of the ones that I could think of off the top of my head, and I'm probably missing a few, but one of the first big decks that I can remember when Hearthstone came out, you know, we saw all sorts of gimmicky things, we saw lots of Murloc decks and stuff. One of the first big decks was the Miracle Rogue. The Miracle Rogue was a deck everyone was talking about, they were constantly running into it, it was ridiculous. It had crazy card draw engine with Gadget and Auctioneer, lots of low cast spells allowing you to fill up your hand really quickly, then you're dumping all of these spells, the cost almost nothing. You're playing Edwin in play, you've got a questing adventurer, all of a sudden you're concealed, no one can target them, they're gigantic, and you win the next turn. That was ridiculous. And Blizzard promptly nerfed the hell out of rogues. So rogues fell out of vogue, and then we started to see a mix of things. We started to see a mix of control decks. There were control shaman decks and druid decks. Saw lots of different aggros. Murlocs were still putzing around. In fact, they still are to this very day. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Priest blew up. Well, it wasn't out of nowhere. There was a balance patch, but there was a balance patch that made Priest cards, some of them a little ridiculous, and then you saw Priest everywhere. Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death, Mind Control, Holy Nova, oh my gosh, Northshire Cleric, woe is me, it's ridiculous. And then people said, oh, wait a second, we're just gonna play with all 4 attack minions, and beyond that, we'll also play tons of aggro. And then aggro started picking up. We're talking about Shattered Sun Cleric, Dark Iron Dwarf, Defender of Argus, Argent Commander, all that stuff. And then Blizzard nerfed that. This is literally what happened. And then the one-turn kill hunter came along. The one-turn kill hunter, Blizzard nerfed that. And now, everyone's complaining about mages. Blizzard's gonna nerf that. And I guess the thing is, oh man, it's just so weird from my prior history of CCGs, and maybe that's my problem. Maybe because I have this conception as to the fact that there should be a few top decks, and then there will be counters. But the other thing is, we're seeing all these nerfs. There's always gonna be something on top. That's the very nature of it. There's always going to be a best deck. And you can't just keep nerfing the best deck, because then it will get replaced with another best deck, and that's exactly what happened. Miracle Rogue, the best deck, nerfed. Priest, the best deck, nerfed. Way too late, by the way, because priests are like crap now, and they just nerfed Mind Control. Aggro, the best deck, nerf Shadow Sun Cleric, nerf Argent Commander. And now Mages, the best deck that everyone's complaining about, it's getting nerfed. But the thing is, I feel like this stuff a lot of times will suss itself, it'll fix itself. So the Priest issue fixed itself. Priests were dominant, people figured out how to combat them, people figured out a deck that easily dealt with them and that was strong overall, and it fixed itself. And I feel like the Mage situation has started to fix itself. I'm currently sitting around rank 10, and I'm not seeing a lot of mages. I'm seeing a lot of heavy control, Paladin, and Druid. I'm seeing quite a bit of aggro. In fact, I'm currently running a hybrid Murloc aggro Warlock deck that I saw on Reddit the other day. The thing is freaking hilarious. I just steamrolled last night. But I just think it's a little knee-jerk. It's a little too quick, and I feel like the metagame in a card game like Hearthstone should be like a pot of stew. You really just, you gotta let it simmer. You gotta let people figure things out before you just blatantly nerf everything. Because like I said, a nerf to mages is coming. They're nerfing all freezes. They're increasing the casting cost of freeze, of Cone of Cold, and of Blizzard. That's pretty big. What that's gonna mean is I'm already starting to roll mages with some aggro decks. It's gonna be even more hilarious after this freeze nerf happens. And the problem is, that's gonna happen. If that is enough to cause mages to fall off, which it probably won't be, because I feel like the biggest issue when it comes to fighting mages is ice block. But if that's enough to make mages fall off, mages will just get replaced. Everyone will be complaining about the next class, and then what, Blizzard's gonna nerf them? Like, this can't be a perpetual cycle. It's gotta stop sometime. If you want perfect balance, you know what you have to do in Hearthstone? You have to change every card to cost 1 crystal and be a 1/1. Every single card in the game. Then you're balanced, you're fine. Everyone's playing the same, yay, we're all happy. But it's a card game, man. There's always gonna be a top, and you can't just keep nerfing it. I understand some people feel certain decks are overpowered, and I understand that Blizzard was justified in a few of their nerfs in the past, but I feel like just because something's dominant today doesn't mean it's going to be dominant next week, and maybe we should wait before we just nerf everything. That's just how I feel, though. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I just wanted to vent sort of my frustration and opinions. And Blizzard's perfectly within their right, and they know a hell of a lot more about balancing video games than I do. And no, this isn't a complaint because I love mages so much and I don't want them nerfed, because I've got like every card anyways. I can build, and the next big deck that comes out, I'm gonna be able to build it right away. So it's not about that. But it's more about what's natural and what's healthy for a card game. And maybe Blizzard probably knows better than me, and you know, Blizzard doesn't necessarily want this to be like my memories of Magic the Gathering, and that's fine. But I just wanted to, yeah, express my opinion. So let me know what you guys think and what your opinion is about the balance in Hearthstone and how Blizzard is handling it in the comment section below. Thanks guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for more great gaming coverage here on the channel. Keep watching and keep owning.